Hi everyone and welcome to my first YouTube video. So this video is all going to be about how I was diagnosed with a brain tumour. The reason I'm doing this video is because I had a really rare brain tumour. My brain tumour was in the pineal region, which is like right in the centre of your brain, and they are really rare. Only 1% of all tumours and cysts come from the pineal gland itself. So there's not a lot of research done on them, a lot of doctors don't understand them. And I'm doing this video to try and raise awareness really and get help for people that are still in this situation, battling against doctors and neurosurgeons and neurologists to get some help, because I didn't understand anything about brain tumours until it happened to me, and I never expected in a million years that at 22 years old I would be diagnosed with a brain tumour, all from a different problem. My diagnosis was not the usual diagnosis. I didn't go for a scan and then was told I had a brain tumour. Mine all started from something else. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning of my journey and tell you everything that's happened to me so far, and hopefully this video will help raise awareness into pineal gland tumours and cysts, because they are so dangerous and nothing is being done about them. There are so many people that I have spoken to that have the same thing as me, that are told it doesn't cause problems, that they are fine to live with it. How can anyone be fine to live with something in their brain that is causing them symptoms and that is growing? And I can tell you firsthand, the symptoms that it caused me were horrific. And now that I've had my surgery, my whole life is different. So I'll take you back to the beginning of my journey and I hope you enjoy my story. I warn you, I do talk a lot, so I hope this video isn't too long, but I'm sorry if it is. Maybe I would suggest go grabbing a drink or something and then coming back and sit down, because if you know me, I talk for England. So I'll do my best to keep this short and sweet, but I can't promise that it's not going to be a long video. So I'll take you back to the beginning of my journey. Mine all started in February 2016 when I moved into my new home. Now my house is a new build house, so I didn't expect anything weird to be happening in it, which sounds bizarre because you don't know what I'm going to say. But when I moved in, I was here for about 3 or 4 weeks and I started to smell tobacco. Like, that is a really weird smell for me to smell because I don't smoke and my partner doesn't smoke. To smell tobacco in your new home, brand new, no one's ever lived here, was really bizarre. I just ignored it for a little while, but it kept coming back. Like, it was always a persistent smell. So maybe I would smell it on a Monday and then I wouldn't smell it till a Thursday, and then maybe a Friday and a Sunday. Like, it was really weird, but all that would happen is I'd breathe in, I would breathe out and the smell would disappear. So I asked my partner, I said to him, can you smell the smell that I'm on about? And he said, no, I can't. And I thought, oh, this is really weird. Like, I'm the only person smelling it, but I was going around the house and I'm smelling in each room and I'm like, no, can't smell it. Like, it was only for that split second that I could smell anything. It was so strange. And then I Googled it because I thought, okay, if no one else can smell this, maybe it's just me. So I Googled it and it said smell hallucinations, which are caused from a brain tumour. And I was like, why did I bother Googling anything? Google always tells you the worst case scenario. So I shut down Google and I just ignored it and I carried on my life as normal. Now by about June 2016, I went on holiday to Cyprus. And while I was in Cyprus, I didn't have this smell. I never really smelt the smell when I was outside of my house, which made me think even more that it was in something inside my home. Now I went to Cyprus and I was there for about 2 days, and I woke up one morning and I couldn't walk. Now I'm usually fit and healthy, and I just woke up and I couldn't bear any weight onto my left leg. It was like a stabbing pain into my calf muscle. And it was like my leg had just given up. Like, there was a serious weakness all down that side of my body. Now I thought it could be like a muscle injury, that I've hurt myself, because the day before I was on jet skis. So I thought, oh, have I done something to jolt my leg? But the pain got worse, and then by the evening I couldn't even make it downstairs to have dinner. I had food brought to my room because I was in so much pain. My leg kept swelling and going purple, which is like really bizarre. It was like filling with blood. I'll link a picture here so you can see what happened. Now it was really bizarre, like how does that happen to someone's leg that is normally fit and healthy? So we spoke to like the reception at the hotel and they said they could get a doctor, but it was just a load of hassle. So I decided to go back to the UK and get help. So I go back to the UK and the flight home was really difficult because obviously I was really struggling to walk. But when I arrived home, the next day I went to the GP, and the GP said to me, you need to go straight to a hospital. And she handed me this letter and told me I had to go straight onto a ward. And inside this letter, it was all my medical information saying that I could have a blood clot. Now, I was completely confused. I was like, how have I ended up with a blood clot? And she said they can be common from the contraceptive pill. So I was like, oh wow. So I went straight to the hospital and they did blood tests, they did blood pressure, and they took me for 2 ultrasounds, one on my left leg, one on my right leg. And the reason they did both legs is because they said although the pain is in the left leg, it can be deferred pain from the right leg. But they checked both legs, and within an hour we had the results, and there was nothing wrong with my legs, nothing visible, no blood clots, nothing causing an obstruction in my leg. So I spoke to the doctor and he told me I had to go back to the GP in the morning because he specialises in blood clots and he did not know what the problem was. So the next morning I go back to the GP and the GP tells me to treat my leg as if it's a muscle injury. He says rest it, elevate it, ice it, and just stay off of it as best as you can. Because I was trying to hobble, but my leg would just collapse underneath me. It's really difficult to explain unless you saw it, but I just couldn't bear weight, so I literally couldn't walk because I had nothing to lean on, so it was just really, really impossible. So for like a week I treated it as like a pulled muscle, if you like, and I had it elevated and I was putting ice on it and I was just resting, not doing much. I couldn't do much anyway. And it didn't get any better. But then one morning, I think it was like a Friday, I woke up and I thought, the stabbing pain isn't there. So I stood up on my leg and I thought, okay, it hasn't collapsed yet and it's not going as purple. It still was going purple, but it's not as purple. So I tried to walk and I could like pull myself along, but like my knee was almost collapsing underneath me. It's hard to explain, like it wouldn't support my weight, which is really, really bizarre. So my friend says to me, do you want to come and get some food? Because I hadn't been out the house in like a week. So we were just going around McDonald's drive-thru, nothing serious. While we're in the car going around the drive-thru, the most almighty pain hit my leg. I was like hurled over, holding my leg like up in the air like this. It was such a sharp stabbing pain. And I said to her, I need to go to the hospital. There was no doctors at this point. It was all out of hours. So I was like, I can't go another night like this. My leg had gone so big, it had swelled up completely, and I was so concerned. I was like, this is not normal, this isn't, I've had sprained muscles and pulled muscles, this was not a muscle. So we went to the hospital and again they rushed me through pretty much instantly. They said that I had a blood clot, and I'm like, another doctor thinks I've got a blood clot, there must be something here that's being missed. So they do blood tests again, but my blood tests come back fine, and the doctor reassured me that if there is a clot, it would come back at least borderline, if not positive. It wouldn't be coming back negative. He said there is not a clot. So he sent me for x-rays in case I had broken my leg and not realised. Don't know how I would have broken my leg, but he said it can happen. So I was really confused. So he sent me for these x-rays, and again there was nothing wrong with my leg. He turned around and said to me, I am baffled. I do not know what's wrong with your leg, but you need to go to the GP in the morning because there's nothing I can do for you here. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been absolutely fine. I come back from holiday and I can't walk. Like this isn't normal. I was so upset and distressed by not being able to walk and not knowing what was wrong. But he had some sense. He gave me some crutches, which helped because that means I could lean all my weight on my upper body and I could still drag my leg along, so I was able to stand and manoeuvre around the house. It was difficult, but it was a lot easier than trying to hold the sofa and pull myself along because it was almost impossible to get myself up to even get a drink. Like I couldn't be left alone because I just couldn't care for myself basically. So I went back to the GP in the morning and he said, look, you've done everything I've asked you to do, I'll now send you for MRI scans. But he warned me that MRI scans can take up to 6 weeks to come through, but he did mark it as urgent. And I said to him, like, obviously I'm off work at this point, I need to return to work as soon as possible. Is there anything else? And he said, all I can do is mark it as urgent and hopefully you'll get a cancellation. So I waited out and it was about 5-6 weeks, something like that. It's about 4 weeks when I got the letter and about 5.5 weeks when I actually had the scan. Now I went for the scan and my doctor had reassured me my whole left leg was going to be scanned. But when I got there, the radiographer told me that's not the case. They can only scan each part of the leg individual. So it'd be like the ankle, then the calf, then the thigh, then the hip. It would all be done individually, and it all had to be done at separate times because each part of the leg took 45 minutes. So she said there's no possible way you can lay in the scanner for like 3.5 hours. Like, it would be painful. So she told me that she could only do my ankle on this day. Now I asked her to do the calf because I said that's where the most pain is, but she said no, it has to start at the bottom of the leg. So I was really upset because I just thought finally I was going to get some answers, and now I'm not. So I was really, really confused. So she scanned my ankle and I waited about a week and a half for the results. My GP rang me and told me there is nothing wrong with my ankle, but I didn't think there was anyway. So all this time my symptoms are getting worse, if you like. I'm struggling to walk more and the smell is still there. But not only is the smell there, I'm now smelling it like a lot more often. So before it was like every other day, every few days. Now it was at least once a day. So it was getting worse. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I should tell a doctor about this now. But in the meantime, I went back to the GP to get the referral for the second part of my leg to be scanned. But he said at this point, we're not going to do your leg, we're going to do your back. And I asked him why he was going to do my back, and he said a lot of nerve pain can come from a slipped disc or something like that in your back. So maybe I jarred myself, not realised, and it's causing my leg to give out, which did make sense. Okay, so they ordered the MRI of my back, and I had to wait another 6 weeks, but during these 6 weeks I was referred to a pain management clinic. Now this clinic is meant to deal with the pain element, not be able to fix the actual leg. So I go to this clinic and they offer me what's called steroid injections. Now I refused these because I didn't know the problem was in my back. So I was like, I'm not going to allow you to inject my back not knowing what is wrong with me. So I said, I'll wait for the results of the MRI scan and then we can rediscuss. But during the meantime, they put me on a medication called gabapentin, which is like a nerve blocker pain relief drug. So I was on that from about August time. And I had to take that like 3 times a day, I think. I can't really remember, but I think it was like 3 times a day. But during that time, I started to get worse and worse. So I waited 6 weeks for the MRI scan and I finally got given my date. I then get the MRI results back from my back and my back is absolutely fine. So I go back to the GP and rediscuss everything with them. But this time it was a female doctor. And while I was speaking to her, I mentioned the fact that I'd had this smell. I hadn't really thought much about the smell because I'd been so preoccupied by my leg that the smell was kind of a secondary problem. But the smell had gotten worse. So not only was I smelling it at home, I was smelling it at work, I was smelling it when I was in the car. It was everywhere and I thought, I'm not going crazy now. Like, it's more than once a day. By this point it was like 3, 4, 5 times a day. It was almost every single day. It was really, really persistent. So I mentioned this to her and instantly she said, have you had an MRI of your head? And I said, no, I haven't. I've had MRIs of my leg and I've had MRI of my back, but nothing has ever been mentioned about my head. She said the cause of my leg could all be related from my head, which I was really confused about. So I said to her, what could be wrong with me? So she listed 5 things. She told me I could have epilepsy, MS, MD, Parkinson's disease, or a brain tumour. Now when she said brain tumour, I started crying because I said to her, I had Googled this smell back in like March, April time, and it said it was a brain tumour, but I had ignored it. And she said, look, don't worry about it now, have your scan and we'll get your results. And also, I still wasn't walking at this point, so none of it made any sense. So I thought, you know what, I can't wait another potentially 6 to 8 weeks for a head scan. I'm going to go and pay for private physio to find out what's wrong with my leg. So I paid for private physio, and believe me, it cost an absolute fortune, but it worked. They used heat treatment, massage therapy, and some sort of ultrasound machine that they put into the muscle. It's called the piriformis muscle in like your buttocks area. And it attracts all the heat to one area so that you're able to stimulate the nerves again, so they're able to work. I had like 3 sessions a week for about 6 to 8 weeks, and by the end of it I was able to walk again, which was an absolute miracle because I spent the last 4 or 5 months not being able to walk or do anything by myself. So I couldn't believe it. Like, honestly, when I was told initially that private physio might work, I was so sceptical, but actually seeing it firsthand, it really, really did work, and it was the best thing for me. So I had this video, everything was brilliant. So when it was time for my head MRI scan, I was actually walking, which was, as I said, an absolute miracle that I was able to walk. So I go for the head scan And this was like December the 13th, 2016. So it was a really, really, really long time after I'd seen the doctor. It just kept getting delayed. The scanner kept breaking and there's only one scanner at my local hospital and it was just all a nightmare. So I had the scan and I asked the lady, is there anything obvious on my scan? She told me no, but she can't be certain because it has to go to a radiographer to write a full report, which was fine by me. I just wanted to know if there's anything blindingly obvious on the scan that would cause concern, but she said no, there's not. So I went home that day and I was completely fine, but less than 24 hours later I had a phone call from a GP. I was laying in the bath, it was like 7:30 at night, and I see the doctor's number come up on my phone and I thought, why is the doctor ringing me? It was really, really strange. So I answered the phone and he said, is this Jessica? And I said, yes. And he said, I've got some really bad news, I need to tell you something. I was like, right, okay. Like really taken back because I didn't know what it could be. And he turned around and said, there's a mass that's been found on your brain. Now, I will never ever forget how I felt. Like, I felt physically sick to my stomach. I was so shaken up by what he said that I didn't really listen to what he was telling me because I couldn't believe it. I think he told me there was a mass on my brain and that I needed to go to the hospital in the morning for a contrast MRI scan. Now, I had never heard of a contrast MRI scan, so I was really concerned by what that meant. And I don't think I asked him any questions because I was in so much shock. I think I just sort of sat there with the phone to my ear like, okay, like I didn't say anything. And then he got off the phone and I just burst into tears. And it took me a couple of minutes, but I called my partner who was downstairs and said, you need to take me to my mum. Now he was like, what's going on? Why do you need to go to your mum? I was like, listen, you need to take me to my mum. And I weren't really saying to him what had happened. I was running around frantically looking for clothes, trying to get ready to go to my mum's house. Then I think I said to him, they found a mass on my brain. And instantly he was trying to reassure me. He was like, look, don't worry about it. And I was like, how could you not worry about it? Like, there's a mass on my brain. And at this point, I'm already thinking brain tumour because I Googled it initially, it said brain tumour. The doctor told me it could be a brain tumour. And now they found a mass on my brain. So you're not going to find a mass on your brain and then you have like MS or something. It's completely different. So I was like, it's got to be a brain tumour. Out of them 5 things, it could only be a brain tumour. So I was massively like absolutely shocked. Go to my mum, tell my mum the same thing, and again she's like, Jess, no, calm down, you've misunderstood, don't panic. And I was like, I haven't, but I was in so much shock when the doctor called me. I don't really remember what was real, what wasn't. That sounds silly, but I was really confused. I was like, did he say that? Yes, he did say that. No, he didn't say that. Like, it was really, really confusing. So all we had to do was wait until 8 o'clock the next morning. So the morning of the 15th of December 2016, we called the doctor and they got us in for an MRI scan at the hospital at 3 o'clock that day. Now, I have been waiting weeks for each MRI scan, so to tell me that there was an appointment available that day for me was just bizarre because something must have been seriously wrong to have me in so quickly. So I go to the hospital at 3 o'clock with my mum and my partner, and I am holding back. Like, I do not want to walk through them doors because I do not want them to tell me something is wrong with me. So I'm literally crying as I'm walking in there and I'm begging them not to take me, but I know I need to go. So I go into this little room with the nurse and she puts a cannula into my arm and injects some dye into me. And this dye basically makes everything in your brain show up clearer. So I go into the scanner and this time they put headphones on me and laid me into the scanner and they were playing Christmas songs. Now my heart was breaking because I honestly thought I had a brain tumour, and laying there listening to Christmas songs, knowing that I might not be here this time next year was the worst thing ever. The whole time in the scanner I had tears rolling down my cheeks. I couldn't even think of anything else other than what it was. So the whole scan lasted about 45 minutes. When I got out the scanner, I asked the nurse, is there something still there? And she told me she can't tell me. And then she saw how upset I was. I just burst into tears and I absolutely begged her to tell me. And she said to me, there is something still there, but I can't tell you what it is because I honestly don't know. Now I was like, I'm not gone crazy. I was right, there is something in my head. The doctor did say what I think he said. My memory had really gone by this point, and I had put it down to the gabapentin that I'd been taking, and I thought that was what was causing the problems. So I think about a week later I discussed with the doctor to come off of the gabapentin, and which I did, because it wasn't actually doing anything for me anyway. But my memory still got progressively worse, so it never ever got better. I used to have really good memory. You could say a phone number one time and I'd remember it forever. And you could say a number plate and I could see it for a split second and I would never forget it. Like that, my memory was so good. And now I don't remember anything. I don't remember what I did 5 minutes ago. So that night I got a phone call from the doctor again with the report, which again is super quick. So literally like 4 hours after my scan, I'm called by another doctor. And at this time he says to me, there has been a mass found on your brain. He told me it was 14 millimetres by 11 millimetres. It's called a pineal gland cyst. Now at this point I didn't know what a pineal gland cyst was. So as far as I was concerned, it was a cyst, it was nothing to worry about. This is the perception of most people, unfortunately. I was really naive to what it was, and so are many, many people. I had no clue. So I go home and I start Googling things and Googling what pineal cysts are, and I was really concerned about it because he had told me it didn't cause symptoms, and that my neurologist that I was going to see in January, because of this, would tell me the same thing. And I was like, right, okay, so I'm reading on Google a completely different thing to this doctor was telling me. But again, I'm like, do I trust Google? Do I not trust Google? Like, not really sure. So I just thought, you know what, I'll wait it out for my neurologist appointment. I waited it out for that and I went to meet this lady. She was my neurologist for the time that I had to see her. And she also told me I have a pineal gland cyst, told me how big it was, and told me it doesn't cause problems. So I was like, oh, okay, so my headaches aren't related, my smell hallucinations aren't related, my memory problems aren't related. Typical, I forgot that one. My leg isn't related. None of these things are related. Although I was walking, I was still in a lot of pain. I still had the same stabbing, cramping pain in my leg, and I had weakness in that leg, but I was able to walk. But she told me none of this was related to what is in my head. Now I'm like, oh, okay, now what happens? So she says to me, you're going to be referred to a neurosurgeon at Addenbrooke's Hospital. So I turn around and say, wait a second, you've just told me this is nothing to worry about, this thing doesn't cause symptoms, and it's not the cause of all of my issues, so why am I going to see a neurosurgeon at Addenbrooke's Hospital, which is like the biggest hospital local to us? So I was like, why am I going there? And she said, oh, I'm not happy to sign you off and discharge you until you have seen a neurosurgeon. So now my brain is going, now I'm thinking, right, does this thing cause problems and she just doesn't know anything about it and that's why she's dismissing it? So I went to see my neurosurgeon, I think it was at the 25th of January, so like 20 days later. I go and meet this man and he is amazing. He's such a lovely, lovely doctor, and I'm so thankful that I ended up with him as a surgeon. But I go and see him and he says to me, I've looked at your scans and you have a pineal gland tumour, expecting me to sort of agree. And I was like, whoa, I have a tumour? He said, yes, you have a brain tumour. And he's like, you do not know this? And I was like, no, I was told I had a pineal gland cyst. And he said, no, you don't have a cyst. A cyst is usually fluid. This is hard. That what you have is a solid mass. So then I'm like, whoa, okay, so you've just told me I have a brain tumour. I was expecting to come here with my mum and my partner to be discharged, and I've just been told I have a brain tumour. So that was shock number one. And then it carried on. Then he says to me, looking at your scan, it's showing both appearances of benign and cancerous. So I can't tell you whether or not you have cancer. And at this point I'm just like, you've already like told me one big thing and now you're telling me this? Like my heart actually hurt. Like I can't even tell you how it felt. It felt like someone had just taken my whole life from beneath me and pulled it away. Then he went on to say shock number 3. He said, you can't live with this. At some point in your life, you're going to have surgery to remove it. Now I'm like, brain surgery. Brain surgery. I can't have brain surgery. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, this is what it was like to him. I literally didn't know. I said to him, I'm not having brain surgery. So we come to some sort of agreement that he will scan me himself again in 3 months' time, and he will review the scans to see if there's any growth or any changes in the appearance of the tumour. Now, during these 3 months, I go home and I do loads of research on pineal gland tumours, because I've been looking at cysts and now I'm looking at tumours. But what I have found from my own research, there is no difference. They cause the same symptoms, they are in the same location, they cause the same problems. And my symptoms that I have been expressing this whole time are textbook what they cause. Now, I am very lucky. I had a surgeon that understood the symptoms and that understood the dangers of leaving a pineal gland tumour in your brain, whereas there are many people that have what I have, that's doctors, neurologists and neurosurgeons, who completely dismiss what is wrong with them and do not understand it. And as I said, this is the reason I'm doing this video, to try and make people understand this condition a lot better, because it is so unheard of. You go to doctors and they just don't know, and it's no fault of their own. It's such a rare tumour, it's just not spoken about enough, and not enough people come forward with their story. The problem is with a brain tumour, it's so personal and it can leave you with such horrific symptoms before and after surgery that not everyone wants to talk about it. I'm just a very open person, like I will tell you anything you want to know, like I don't mind, but some people do, and that is okay as well. But this is the whole reason I'm doing this video, to try and give people an insight of what my journey was like. But as I said, I ended up with an amazing surgeon. So I then waited the 3 months and then went back to see him. I think I had my MRI scan in April and went back to see him on the 5th of May. But during them 3 months, I had gotten so much worse. I could barely concentrate on anything. If someone asked me to do something, I wouldn't be able to say, yeah, I'll go and do it. They'd have to tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it. I just wouldn't know anymore, the simplest of tasks. And my memory got worse. I can remember most things. It's not that bad, but unimportant things I forget. So if I come in the house and I put my keys somewhere, that is not a major thing I need to remember, so I will forget that. Or if someone says to me, oh, remember to grab juice at Tesco, I will forget that, because it's not a life or death situation. I will not remember to bring juice home. If someone says to me, you have a hospital appointment on this date and this time, I will remember that, because that is important. That's what my memory is like. So it sort of filters out the unimportant information and gets rid of it, but the important stuff does still remain, which I suppose in that sense I'm really lucky. I do still remember most of the important things. But I'm useless with texting people back now. I never used to be. I always have my phone on me, but I just forget. If I look at my phone, I have, you can see, 95 unread messages. I just do not read them. I forget. I actually forget, and I feel really guilty sometimes. I message my friends, I'm like, I'm so sorry, this has been 3 days now and I haven't replied to you. And they're like, oh, don't worry. But unless you remind me, it's not a massive thing in my life to remember, so I don't remember it. So I went back to see him in May and I explained all of this to him. So I was still having the smell hallucinations and they were getting worse. My headaches were so unbearable that I was actually throwing up every time I had one, and I would spend all day in bed. And I was just crying because the pain was so bad, but the crying obviously made it worse because it increased the pressure in the head. It was just such a horrible, horrible feeling. I would lay in the dark with no sound, no light, and just bury my head under the cover and just hope to fall asleep, but never could fall asleep because my sleeping pattern was all over the place. I would snap, I would wake up, I would stay awake all night, I would sleep all day. It was just, I would not sleep for a couple of days and then sleep for 2 days. My brain just wouldn't let me sleep normally, like a normal person. I still had the cramping in my leg. So although I was walking, as I said before, the cramping pain never went away. It was really bad. And I started to have general brain fog, if you can call it that. I was just confused by the simplest of things. That's the only way I can describe it, just confusion. That's it. So I went back to see him and I told him all of these things. And he said to me, look, you're 23 years old. I cannot promise you this tumour is not causing you these symptoms. He was not 100% certain, and he would never tell me that this tumour did cause these symptoms. But he did say, even if the tumour isn't causing the symptoms and psychologically you're stressed by it, these symptoms are coming from the stress, it is affecting your daily life. So he was not certain either way whether your brain is so difficult to determine what's what, and he didn't want to give me false hope and say to me, yeah, that is the cause of your headaches. I have surgery and my headaches are still there, and I understand that completely. So he said, I cannot promise you that this tumour won't cause you symptoms and it won't continue to cause you symptoms throughout your life. And if it grows any more, because at this point it was 16 millimetres by 15 millimetres, so it had grown, but then they said maybe it hasn't grown, maybe it was just the bad measurements on the MRI scan, because if it's by a couple of millimetres, it's really hard to determine whether or not it's grown. And he said maybe it was just remeasured. We just honestly do not know whether or not it's grown, but I just know the first measurement and all my doctor's notes is 14 by 11, and then it was 15 by 16. So he said to me, look, at some point if this grows, we might not be able to get it out as safely. So then I'm thinking, I really can't do this. I said to him, I can't have brain surgery. Like, I don't know anything about brain surgery. The risks are so high. These discussions were long appointments, and I was like, I can't do it. And my mum and my partner were looking at me, and we've been told the risks of surgery. And I'm just like, I don't think I can go through with this. Like, I really don't think I can do this. Like, it was that bad. I was that frightened. I thought, what if I don't have a life afterwards? Because brain surgery is so dangerous. Like, anything can go wrong. And I just don't know if I can do that. Like, I don't know if I could live with myself making such a serious decision and deal with the effects afterwards. Like, I don't know if I'm mentally strong enough to deal with that. So I said to him, look, I'm going to go home and I'm going to do my own research, because I need to know everything about something. I can't just be told I'm having this and disagree and jump to it. If I don't know everything, I cannot go through it. I know there are some people that are very different. They'd rather know nothing and just get on with it. But I have to know everything to be comfortable about the decision I'm making, because that way, if something does go wrong, I know at the time I made the best decision for myself, and I had to be comfortable with my decision without any influence from anybody else. Because at the end of the day, if I come out of the surgery worse than I was when I went in, that's on me, no one else. And I didn't want to put that on anyone else by telling me what to do. So I said to him, I'll go away and I'll do my own research. So he agreed that he would scan me again in July and I'd come back and see him in August. And again, he would check for any growth or any difference in appearance, because still in May it was showing appearances of both benign and cancerous. So he still wasn't sure if I had cancer. I agreed that I would go back and see him in July. So then 3 months I went away and I did loads of research, and I joined a group on Facebook, and this is like a secret group of people that have got the same condition as I have. And there's a mixture of people with cysts and tumours, but all of us collectively have near enough the same symptoms. Now, I thought all this time I was going through this on my own, because I was told it's like one of the rarest brain tumours, and it's mostly children that have them or young adults. I have met so many people ranging from so many different ages that have the same thing I have. And it's really nice sometimes to be able to just speak to them and have someone that genuinely understands. So for them 3 months, I do loads of research. I watched webinars, I read articles, I read scientific articles, I read loads of stuff on brain tumours, loads of stuff on pineal gland. I learnt so much about the brain that I never knew before. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And then I spoke to people that also had the surgery and asked the truthful answers of them. Like, what has happened since surgery and how do you honestly feel? Now, the answers I got back were very mixed, and I'm not going to go into them because they're all personal to other people, and if they want to share them, they will. But some people were doing better, some people were doing worse, and some people are the same. There wasn't a one-size-fits-all. Not everyone come out of this surgery better. And there are people that regretted having it, and there were people that would do it again in a heartbeat. So that's why I really needed to do all this research, because I needed to make the right decision for me personally. But when it got to, like, I think it was like the beginning of July, I thought I've only got like a couple of weeks before my MRI scan. I really need to move it along a little bit and figure out what I'm going to do. Now, I had an in-depth conversation with my family, and again, half of my family were for the operation, and the other half of my family were against the operation, which was literally pulling me in half, because I was like, do I, don't I? Like, I just didn't know what to do. So I sat for a few days, and I just sat on my own, and I just thought about it. And I come to the decision that I cannot live knowing I have something in my head. And that's how I came to my decision, because I knew this thing was affecting me mentally, physically, emotionally. I was exhausted by the whole process. Like, I was exhausted by the fact that I wasn't sleeping anyway. I was exhausted by the fact that it's mentally and emotionally draining. Not only physically, like, I was in so much pain. Gone from this happy 22-year-old girl to this 23-year-old girl that won't even get herself out of bed because she's in so much pain. My life over 18 months changed drastically. Like, I can't even tell you how much it changed. I'd go out, I'd go partying, I'd go out with my friends. I would do things like I really enjoyed, but I could no longer do them things. And people didn't understand. Like, my close friends didn't understand. They'd always be like, do you want to do this? And I couldn't keep up, and I couldn't do what everyone wanted me to do. It was really difficult. Everything just becomes so difficult that I was like, I have to have this surgery because I need to get my life back. And if my life is worse after, at least I can say I tried, because if I carry on like this, every month I'm getting worse. Like, every single month that passed, I was getting worse. My symptoms were getting worse. And that's at the point I decided that surgery for me was the right option. So I went back to see him in August. And again, the tumour was measuring 15 by 16 and it hadn't changed and was still showing appearances of benign and cancerous. Now, he said to me, what do you want to do? Do you want to be scanned again in 3 months? So I had the option to be scanned every 3 months for the rest of my life until it grown or changed and then it had to come out. So I said to him, no, I'm ready. We're going to have the surgery done. And I think he was shocked that I was so like, I'm having surgery, because I was so against it. Like, for the last 6 months he'd seen me, I was like, no. But I explained my reasons to him. I was like, you're right, I can't live knowing this is in my head. This is bothering me, whether it's psychological, emotional, physical, mental. It is bothering me. I need this out. He then sent me a letter out in the post with the date on it. And it was the 26th of September 2017. I had to go in and see him on the 18th of September 2017 to sign my medical consent form. So all through like the next 4 weeks I was getting stuff ready for hospital. So I went to see him on the 18th of September and I signed all my medical consent forms and had my pre-op. And then I went down to see the consultant and we signed all my paperwork. Now, while I was signing that paperwork, reality really hit me, because I had to read the statistics of what could happen to me. Now, I had to sign my life away, literally, because I signed to death 1 in 100, stroke 4 in 100, hemorrhage 4 in 100, blood transfusion 4 in 100, eyesight problems 2 in 10, coordination problems, there was no sort of statistic for that, but coordination problems in general. I had to sign all these things away because the symptoms that can come from surgery are really bad. So the eyesight problems, as I said, 2 in 10, double vision, blurred vision, blind spots, wandering eyes, not being able to focus your eyes or move them correctly. So like, one could go up, one could go down. You might not be able to look up, might not be able to look down. All of these things are really common with this type of surgery. It's the way they go through the brain. If a millimetre wrong movement can change the whole outcome of the surgery. So that's why I think the statistics are so high. Coordination problems, because they go through the cerebellum controls all your coordination. So he said I might not be able to walk, might not be able to put my hands to my mouth, just simple things I might not be able to do anymore. So I had to sign away to all of these things. But I'd made my decision and I was comfortable with my decision. I think it would have been a lot worse if I was like, I'm an RN, but I was certain that I needed this surgery. So now it's day for the surgery, and this day was really, really surreal. I had to be at the hospital for 7 a.m. and I went with my mum, my partner, my 2 sisters, my 2 nieces and my nephew. And we all drove down to Addenbrooke's. Now, when we got there, we were put into a waiting room with other people having neurosurgery. I don't know what they were having, but we were all on a neurosurgery ward. And I was really anxious. Like, I was pacing, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't stop fidgeting. And then my surgeon come to see me, and he come to see me, 1, to ask me some questions, 2, to draw a cross on my neck to indicate where the surgery area was going to be, and 3, just to reassure me because I was a mess. I was crying. I said to him, is this normal? He was like, yeah, it's completely normal to be like this. I was so upset because I just didn't want to wake up in a worse state than I was when I committed to the surgery, which was a huge gamble. It was a complete gamble. So I went in and he gave me a pair of stockings and a gown and told me I had to put them on and go to my bed. So I go over to my bed and I get changed into this gown and stockings, and an anaesthetist comes and sees me. And while he's there, I say goodbye to my family. So that was really difficult because I had to say goodbye to my 2 sisters, my niece and nephew. And they were trying not to cry and I was already crying. I wasn't doing a very good job of trying not to cry. But I was really upset because I just didn't know if that was the last time I was going to see them, which was really, really hard because I had to hug them one more time and then say goodbye. So I said goodbye to them and I could see in all of their faces, like, their hearts were breaking, and so was mine. And I was left with me, my mum, my partner and the anaesthetist. And the anaesthetist told me that both of them can come down to the pre-anaesthetic room. So we all go downstairs and I'm wheeled in this bed. And when I get to this room, I'm greeted by about 8 or 9 nurses, doctors, all sorts of medical professionals. And they start putting a cannula into my arm. Now when they're putting the cannula in, I think I said to one of the nurses, can you please tell me before you put the anaesthetic in so I could say goodbye to my mum and my partner? But it was too late. She'd already put it in. So I never got to say goodbye to them, which was even worse. But it was probably better because I was so anxious about going to sleep that it was better that I didn't know about it. But I was just upset that I never got to say goodbye to them. So before I knew it, I was asleep. I think my mum said to me that I said, like, have you done something because I feel loopy? But I do not remember this. I was just out of it. And the next thing I remember is coming round from surgery and I was asking for my mum. I kept saying, is my mum here? Where's my mum? Where's my mum? And I was in recovery for about 5 hours. I think I was in there for quite a long time. And my mum and my partner came into recovery. And recovery was quite funny. Like, I was still really drugged up and I don't remember a lot of it. But it was really, really strange because the first thing my mum said to me is, can you see? Which I told her I could see. And then she said to me, how are you feeling, I think? And I was in a lot of pain, like asking for more medication because I was in so much pain. Now I said to my mum, can I have the sippy sponge? Now she turned around and said to me, no Jess, you haven't slipped on a sponge, that's not why you're in hospital. And I said, no, sippy sponge, sippy sponge. And she was like, no Jess, you've had brain surgery, you're not in here because you've slipped on a sponge. What she didn't realise, I was asking the nurse for a sippy sponge. She'd been dipping the sponge into water and putting it into my mouth because I wasn't allowed to drink because of the anaesthetic to like rehydrate me. But my poor mum, bless her heart, she thought I was saying that I slipped on a sponge, so she thought that was hilarious. And then I think I said to my partner, shh, don't tell my mum I have superpowers and there's Spider-Man in the corner. Like, I don't really like Spider-Man. I don't know where Spider-Man came from. Like, I told them that he spun a web and all sorts. I was so drugged up, like I was just coming out with all these sort of things. It was quite funny. And also I remember very clearly them talking about me over me. My eyes were shut but I was awake, but I couldn't bring myself round enough to open my eyes. And at one point, my mum and my partner were both talking to each other and I said to them, stop talking about me, I can hear you. And they both cracked up laughing. So they were like, oh my gosh, she can hear everything. Like, I could hear and understand everything. I was just so out of it that I couldn't respond. So then I was moved upstairs to my ward where I would stay from Tuesday night till Friday morning. Now, my time in hospital wasn't brilliant. My surgeon was faultless, like he was incredible and his team were absolutely amazing, but the care on the wards was not amazing. I couldn't wait to go home. I found the 3 nights, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 nights I was there really, really, really difficult. Tuesday night I went up to the ward and as soon as I was there for no more than an hour and my family had to leave because it was because of the time and night visit hours had finished. So they went home and had to leave me there. And within 10 minutes of them leaving, I was violently sick. All the anaesthetic, the morphine, the codeine, everything they had given me made me throw up so badly. But with having brain surgery, they cut all of my neck muscles. They severed my neck muscles all the way along here, the back of my like hairline, if you like. So I couldn't sit myself up. So So to be sick, I was just sick laying where I was. I couldn't physically sit up because I couldn't move my neck. So one lady, bless her, one nurse, she came and helped me, and she changed me, she washed me, put me into some comfortable clothes because I couldn't hold my own head. I was like holding my head to move, like it was so painful. The morphine was not getting rid of the pain, nothing was working. And I said to her, look, I can't have any more morphine because that is what I think is making me sick, because I'm not one to take medication anyway. I really don't like taking tablets. Like, it's a struggle to get paracetamol down me, but I knew I had to take them because I clearly wasn't very well. So I said to her, look, no more morphine, just give me paracetamol and codeine. And she said to me, no, like you need something stronger. I said, no, I said, it's making me sick. Morphine is a no-go, like I'm not having it. So it's codeine and paracetamol. So she said, okay. So throughout the night I had codeine and paracetamol, and I was also given 2 separate lots of anti-sicknesses to stop me being sick, which didn't really work. And then all the Wednesday I was really out of it. So my family came to see me at 1 o'clock and they had to leave by 9, but about 7 o'clock my mum noticed that I wasn't okay and I was getting more and more drowsy, and she said that I was grey. Now this night is very vague to me. All I remember really is them coming to take me down for an MRI scan. Now my mum and partner were like, she's going now for a scan. They were like, yeah, she's going now. So they will be downstairs in my bed to this MRI scan, and the bright lights and the noise and everything was just horrible. I was just, it was awful. I just wanted to sit in the dark, and nowhere in the hospital was dark, nowhere was quiet, there was machines, there was people crying. I know they can't help it, they're in pain, but everything about the hospital was awful. So I go for this MRI scan, and the 2 men that were doing it were lovely. They were so kind, but they had to get me from my bed to the MRI scanner bed. Now let me tell you, I was in pain already. This was like a new level of pain. Like, to be taken out of my bed less than 24 hours after surgery and dragged to an MRI scanner, shoved in a scanner where I have wedges shoved into my head to hold my head in place. I'm laying flat as well, which is really painful, laying directly on my incision in a scanner for 25 minutes with all of the noise and the slight movements. It was horrific. I just literally was begging them to get me out. I just couldn't wait. I was in so much pain. I was like counting down how long I was in there. And my partner, bless him, he come into the room where the scanner was with me, and he held my hands the whole time. And he was like telling me how long was left of each scan, because it shows it on the top of it, it says like 3 minutes or 5 minutes. And he was telling me how long was left of each one. And I literally was just sitting there just waiting for it to be over. But as soon as it was over, they were really careful with me. They got me out of the scan and they put me back into my bed. But to move me, they were dragging me from one bed to another. Oh, it was so painful. My poor neck. But then I went up to the ward and I went back to my little space that I was sitting in, and my family had to say goodbye because by this point it was like 9:30. It was really late. So they said goodbye to me, and the nurse then looked after me, and she gave me 2 more lots of anti-sickness because I was still being sick. And I said to her, look, I can't have any more codeine because I think the codeine is making me sick. Now I've taken paracetamol many times and I know that doesn't make me sick, so I was like, it can't be that. So I'll just have paracetamol and ibuprofen, because I've taken ibuprofen for all the swelling in my leg and stuff, and I know that doesn't make me sick. So I thought, paracetamol and ibuprofen, I'll be fine. And she said to me, look, you've just had brain surgery 36 hours ago. Like, you cannot just be on paracetamol and ibuprofen. I said to her, look, I'm not taking anything else. Do not give me anything else. That is all I want. And that is all I took from that moment. So middle of the night Wednesday, that is all I took. I was on paracetamol every 6 hours and ibuprofen every 8 hours. And that is literally all I took the whole time I was in hospital and the whole time during my recovery. I never had anything stronger because I couldn't stand being sick. Being sick was so painful because obviously the movement, the fact that my neck muscles were severed, the whole thing was just so painful. So for days I was like shaking with pain because my neck muscles was just so unbearable. The cut itself wasn't too bad. It was the neck muscles, and the main thing I worried about was ripping the cut open, because most people that have had brain surgery have staples. Now I had dissolvable stitches, which is really rare, And I was so cautious because I thought I would rip it open, and I just kept crying to my mum. I said, is it still sealed? Is it sealed? And everyone would be looking for me, and they're like, no, it's absolutely fine, it's healing brilliantly. But I was so worried that I was going to rip it open, or it was going to start bleeding and have to go back to surgery. It was just such a mess. So they said to me on Friday morning, if you walk and you can eat, because I hadn't eaten, I refused to eat because I was so sick, you can go home. I don't think a girl's ever got out of bed so quickly. I jumped myself out of bed. I didn't care how much pain I was in, and I ate a bit of toast, and they were like, you can go home. I was like, yes. Like, all I wanted to do was go home. Like, I can't even tell you how long I had waited to go home. Like, I kept waiting every day, because they said 1 or 2 days in hospital. This had been like 3 days, and I was like, I just want to go home to my bed. I couldn't stand it anymore in that hospital. So I went home on Friday. It was a really tough car journey because I live an hour away from the hospital, and it was painful in the car. Every bump I felt, and I had to have a special pillow supporting my neck, and my cup was sore. But from the moment I got into my own bed, it was all worth it. Definitely. It was really comfortable. So I started recovering at home. By about a Friday afternoon, I was settled in bed and I was recovering at home. Now, my recovery, I feel like, went quite quickly when I was at home. They recommended 6 weeks at least in bed, maybe up to 6 months in bed recovering. But I was up like pretty much the next day walking around. I was going downstairs. I was going down into the kitchen. I wasn't downstairs for long periods of time, maybe 15 minutes, but I was getting out of bed and I was walking around. But I took my tablets like every time, so I had alarms, and my partner was reminding me every 8 hours, every 6 hours. I didn't miss a dose because I think I did once and the pain was unbearable. So as long as I continually stuck to the dose, I didn't feel that much pain. It was painful, but it was bearable. To do it on paracetamol and ibuprofen, it was bearable. I do have quite a good pain threshold, but it wasn't horrific. It was nowhere near as bad as the pain I suffered with before surgery. I'll tell you now, that pain before surgery was next level. That was so painful. So I was quite happy to do it on what I was doing. I then started to bath by myself, and because originally I was told that I'd need help getting in and out of the bath and stuff, but I didn't. The day I come home, I had a bath by myself. I was just really independent. Considering I just had brain surgery, I was very lucky. I was able to do all my normal things. I had a bell, which was hilarious because my mum and my partner were here all the time, and my sisters were visiting. Every time they didn't have work, they were here every evening, every morning before work. That they were with me continuously, my family. And I had a doorbell, so I'd be ringing the doorbell like, can I have this, can I have that? And I think they all got fed up, but they loved it because they knew when I was asking for things, I was okay and I was more of myself. So I think they were all happy that I was doing so well. As I was at home, I was getting quicker and quicker at recovering. I was becoming more and more normal. I was very tired, and I found weeks 2 and 3 very difficult. The pain was a lot worse. It was like I'd become immune to the paracetamol and the ibuprofen, that I wasn't really feeling the effects of them anymore, and I could really feel the pain. But I spoke to some other people that had been through it, and one girl in particular, Beth, thank you, she said to me, 2 and 3 are the worst weeks ever, but after that I promise you'll feel better. She was right. I promise you, by week 4 I felt so much better. I felt a little bit like me again. I could feel the pressure in my head building up on occasion, but every time I did, I just took an ibuprofen because I felt that ibuprofen really kept the swelling down. That is one thing I would recommend, but do not take it too much because you'll end up with what happened to me. So I was taking ibuprofen, the normal doses, but because I was taking it every day, it caused my stomach to bleed, which is really not good. I started having loads of indigestion, and I started having acid all coming up, and it was really painful. I get like a stabbing pain in my chest, and the doctor said that's what the ibuprofen does. So I had to come off the ibuprofen and start eating a rainbow diet. So every day I had to have all of the colours in the rainbow to build up good gut bugs or something to fight the infection and the bleeding and the ulcer in my stomach, which I did, and it did go away. But then I noticed the pressure building up again in my head, so I started taking just 1 ibuprofen a day. I was already off the paracetamol by week 4, and I was then come off the ibuprofen, but now I was back on the ibuprofen to get rid of the swelling. So I took that once a day for maybe another 2 weeks, so leading up to week 6, and it all happened again. My stomach started bleeding, the acid got worse, they sent me for more blood tests to see if I had some dangerous bugs in my stomach. I couldn't keep food down. It was like my food wasn't digesting, it was like it was sitting in my stomach. It was so painful. But again, I come off the ibuprofen, that's all gone away, and now I'm fine. So ibuprofen was really, really good for me after surgery, but by week 4 I should never have gone back on it. That would be my only criticism to myself. But it did help with the swelling. So most people have gone on steroids after brain surgery. I didn't have to because I took this ibuprofen, so I wouldn't actually do anything differently, because I'd rather indigestion than brain swelling, because that is really painful and makes you feel really disorientated. So it swings around about, it works both ways, but I didn't do anything dangerous, but I just had to come off it. So I'm off it now and everything is fine. My stomach's fine now, and I'm not in any pain. So by week 7, I went back to see my neurosurgeon, and I think he was absolutely shocked when he saw me. He couldn't believe how well I was doing, and we spoke about my symptoms. Now, we went through each one. He asked me about the smell hallucination. I said to him, I've only had the smell about 2 times since surgery, and that was during the first 2 weeks, which could just be my brain settling to the fact that there was a foreign object in my brain. I have not had that since. Headaches, I do not have the headaches anymore. If I get a headache, it's like a normal person headache, that's the only way to describe it, in a different place, and it's nowhere near as bad or intense as it used to be. I used to have them every single day and be throwing up with them. I don't even need tablets, they're not bad, they are just normal headaches when I've just overdone it. Tiredness, I do really suffer with tiredness still. If I do too much during a day, I really, really know about it. Like, I get really tired and I struggle, but I'm a lot better. Each week that passes, I'm getting less and less tired and I'm getting stronger and stronger. The leg pain. Now, this was always, was it related? Is it not related? Is it related to something else? Since surgery, I have had no pain in my leg. Not one bit. I am walking fine. In fact, I'm even exercising, doing HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training. I am in no pain in my leg, which I haven't been able to do that exercising in ages because of the leg pain. There is nothing. So people might say to me that wasn't related. I beg to differ, because I was in so much pain with my leg and now it's all gone. Memory problems. Now, I still have memory issues, but as I said, they're not that bad. They are just the insignificant things I don't really need to remember, I forget. But I remember all the important stuff, which is good. But when I'm trying to put money in my purse and stuff, I get really frustrated because I can't remember where I've spent it, or I can't remember why I've got it. And I do get really, really confused, and I will admit I do get upset sometimes. I cry out of frustration because I just can't remember certain things. And I say to my mum, what was I here to do? What was I doing? And she's like, don't worry about it. And I just get really, really frustrated with myself. But it's one of them things. I've just had brain surgery. I'm not going to be 100%. Of course I'm not. Also, I had like brain fog and confusion. Completely fine. My eyesight, completely fine. He was testing my eyes and he was like, yeah, they move fine. I was like, I can see fine. He was so shocked that I was absolutely fine. All of my symptoms that I had complained about before surgery were gone. Now, I can be told they were mental, physical, I don't know, but they are gone. I don't care what they were. They're gone. So I firmly believe they were related to the tumour. Like, he was really happy for me that I'm fine, and I am so, so, so thankful for him, because he has given me my life back. Literally given me my life back to what it was before. So I would say like I'm 90% better at 12 weeks post-op. I still have like that 10% to go, and that's like the extra bit of tiredness and just getting my brain used to sleeping on certain times again, and just generally building up my lifestyle and like my fitness and my health and stuff, because it deteriorated so much over 18 months that I'm so unfit, I'm so unhealthy. I just wanted to get all of that back. So I'll say I'm at 90%, but I'm hoping by summer I'll be back to normal. And who knows, I might even be back to normal even sooner. But by 7 weeks post-op, so when I went to see him, he gave me the all clear to exercise. So since then I've been weight training, I've been HIIT training, I've been doing all my normal things. And I've had no issues really. Like, I'm really lucky, like I feel completely blessed. But I know I've come out of this surgery so much better than most people. My story is different than anyone else. Like, I had my surgery in the UK for one, which is unheard of. This surgery is so dangerous. There are very few neurosurgeons who will perform this operation worldwide. There is a couple in America, one in Australia that I know of, and like now my surgeon in England. Like, I have not heard of very many doctors performing this surgery. So the fact that I was even offered this surgery on the NHS for free was incredible, because many people I've spoken to have paid hundreds of thousands of pounds to travel abroad to have this surgery. And I was offered this surgery without even having to fight for it. It was always on the cards for me if I wanted it. Whereas other people are still fighting for surgery, or have been fighting for absolute years to then have the surgery. I do feel really blessed. Like, the whole process, yes, has been really difficult for me, and I'm not going to pretend recovery is easy, because it's not. There are some days I didn't want to eat, some days I just wanted to sleep and lay in bed all day. But when I'm sleeping, it's a good thing. My brain is healing, so I wasn't mad by the fact that I was sleeping all day. My family kept saying, come on Jess, like get up, like motivate yourself, but I couldn't. I was just so tired. But each day these things are getting better for me, and I'm doing more and more. Like, I've been out Christmas shopping this year in a busy shopping centre, which at the best times is overwhelming for people. I did that after surgery, like, so it can happen. You can come out of this all right, and that's why I wanted to do this video, because there's not enough research been done into these tumours, and doctors need to realise that the benefits it can have on people's lives by having it removed. And as I said, I'm one of the lucky ones that I have come out of this surgery pretty much symptom free, which I hate saying, because there are other people I know who have come out so much worse and who are still struggling. And I'm really sorry that you've come out like that. But at the same time, I'm so thankful that I've come out of it like that, like I have. I'm not crying because I'm sad, I'm crying because I'm happy, and I just never expected it. But my surgery was just a miracle for me. It changed my whole life. I got my life back. Now I just need to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, because I feel like I've been given a new lease of life and I need to embrace it, definitely. Like, if you'd have asked me this time last year where I'd be, I honestly didn't know. So to be sitting here, being able to talk to all of you and tell you my story is just a miracle, and that's how I see it. If you have any questions for me about my surgery or anything, please let me know. I'm going to put some pictures of my scars in this video at the end, so if you don't want to see them, I will warn people, they aren't very nice. It is just a large cut basically on the back of my head that's 5.5 inches. I am going to put them in the video because I feel like it's really important for people to actually see what was done. But if you don't want to see, please shut down the video, because I don't want to make anyone squeamish or feel not very well by looking at it. But I'll put them in. So I'll put one in at 6 days post-op, 12 days post-op, and 21 days post-op. And now. So like, my hair has grown back so much in 12 weeks. It blends in now, so like you can't see it. I used to wear a hat every time I used to go out, but now I don't have to. But as I said, if you have any questions, please ask me down below, and I will get back to you and explain it the best way I can. But I hope you all enjoyed my video, and I thank you all so much for watching, and I hope this has sort of cleared some things up and can give people an insight into what pineal gland cysts and tumours really do to people. So thank you again. I just wanted to say thank you to my family because you've all been like a rock to me. Like, I couldn't have done this without all of you. So thank you so much for just not leaving my side, and even though it was really difficult for all of you to drive back and forward and always be there and always be at the house to make sure that I was never alone. I owe you all my life. Like, I love you all so much, honestly. So thank you, because you're all amazing.